Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Empowered Presence podcast. Today is a unique and special episode because we have our very first male guest, non-woman guest. It was a hard sell, I'm not gonna lie, because when I saw that it was a guy, I was like, "What you want? Who sent you?" Right. But after chit-chatting and things, I recognize that he has a message for, brilliant women of color looking to build a personal brand. And so let me introduce you to Rodney C. Burris.
Thank you, Melody.
He is one of America's premier emotional intelligence trainers. Okay. His journey is one of resilience and triumph. He have been raised by a single mom. And amidst all of his challenges, he has a remarkable story of perseverance. Okay. And so now he is really using his story of overcoming adversity to help fuel his passion of helping others. And so he has used his expertise to support organizations with team building, communication, data analysis, program development, and he has workshops and seminars that have gained wide acclaim, not only in the US, but globally. So he probably knows a thing or two about building a personal brand, and he has an interesting story. So I definitely welcome you to Empowered Presence. Hello, Rodney.
Hello, Melanie. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I named this podcast episode Brand Consistency, A Mother's Legacy, and the Power of Belief.
Yes.
Because there's a few points that, as we chat about offline, that I wanted to make sure we hit on today. And those were kind of the main themes. And so where do you want to start? Right? Do you want to talk about brand consistency? You want to start talking about your mom's legacy or the power of belief? You let me know.
Yes, Melanie, I want to start by saying thank you. I was having a conversation with some people the other day. It was a small group of us. And something that we all kind of know, but it became really loud and apparent to me yesterday. There's a certain burden that is unique to the Black woman experience.
Right.
And even as a Black man in America, in the same society, it's a little different. You know what I mean? It's the expectations are different. The support, the access. There's still a measure of privilege, if I can say that. I know that might be a little touchy to say, but there's a measure of privilege as a man that I'm still afforded, right? And there's a certain kind of, I don't know, open door mindset that kind of just goes in tandem with me being me. And overlooking that doesn't do any of us any good, right? And walking around like it's just them, but not also seeing my own access to a privilege that my mother didn't have, my sisters don't have. So I wanted to say thank you. And I wanted to acknowledge that gratitude in that special place. And hopefully my work in life, here too, but in life, supports and bridges that experience for Black women as well.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that, because some men don't. And so I love that you recognize that we do have a very unique, situation and experience as we go through life in general, as we go through, relationships, as we go through career.
Right.
It's just, whew. And so appreciate you for acknowledging that. And that's why I started this podcast, because I recognize like this is a widespread thing. The little issues that I've had, or my friends have had, or people I know have had. Now I'm talking to a lot more Black women because of the work I do. I recognize this is a widespread issue that we
It
have, right?
is.
It's not it's not in a box. It's not just you. So if you're hearing this, it's not just you.
That's
We
right.
all share very, very, very similar stories. I've heard the same variation of the
Mm,
same story over and
mm.
over and over again. And so, yeah. So talk to me a little bit
Yeah.
about your mom.
Yeah. So my mom, she gave me something that I had no idea how impactful for my life. First of all, she gave me life, right? Let's just start there. But in addition to that, my name is Rodney C. Burris, and I wasn't always Rodney C. Burris. For when I was going to be born, I was going to be a junior. I'm not a junior. My dad is named Rodney Burris. Shout out to my dad. And he wanted a junior. My dad wanted a little mini me. And before I could even advocate for myself, my mom was like, that can't be his legacy. That can't be his story. He needs to be able to stand
Mm,
on his own. So my mom and another black woman in my life, my aunt Queen, who was my dad's sister, they went back and forth sharing names and figuring out what they wanted to do. And they landed on Christopher. So my aunt Queen and my mama gave me this identity. Melanie, they say what's in a name, right? Sometimes names are important. Just for a pause for a second, I've had a very uncomfortable experience recently with names, and names are so important with building a brand, right? What your brand is called and how you identify, what we give people permission to call us is so important. My mama was instilling that into me early. Well, something I didn't realize is um, I can get real familiar, like play cousins real quick, right? Yeah, I don't know if you remember the movie Juice with Janet and Tupac, and they saw the people having a cookout. They just went up there like, yo, like, fam, I can roll like that. Well, I had a colleague of mine who I shortened her name like we was around the way, like we in the neighborhood. And I didn't know until one day she cut me off. She said, "Did you ever know that I detest nicknames?" Man,
mm.
what you say? Because I'm like, what did nicknames ever do? You got to tell me this story. Like, what did nicknames do to you? And she said, I've had bad experience with people not honoring me as a black woman. And I need my name to be my name. And I was, if I can just be regular and not so shiny, I was offended. Melanie. I was
Wow.
offended. I was offended. Can I tell you why? Because I felt compared to a group of people who don't get us, our culture, our background. I was compared to a group of people who don't know what it's like to grow up with Man Man and Pumpkin and Peanut. So me doing a nickname, I felt like fam, like family, like cousins. And she was like, I feel you. And she laughed. She laughed. And she was like, and with that being said, because of them, I want to honor my name. I struggled with that. And I met two additional people. One of them was at the White House. I was at the White House about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And this gentleman has a really long name, a brother. And I said the same thing. I was like, can I say it like this? Is that wrong? Is that offensive? He was like, it's not wrong or offensive, but it's incomplete.
Mm,
Mama taught me that, Melanie. My mama said, make people say your name. And so I've learned to become my individual self. I've learned how to stand in the strength of my name. And I thought I knew that lesson growing up. But clearly, I needed a reminder. You know what I mean? And shout out to my mom to give me the foundation to be a young man in this world, to stand on my own brand. This brand has taken me crazy. So they named me Christopher. I shortened the Christopher just to the C. And so that is my name across all of the platforms and all that kind of stuff. But my mom, one of the things that she did, I saw her struggle to build brand. I saw it.
mm,
So I didn't get to share this with you. My mom had ideas about businesses, about products, and she would tell me about them. She would call me Chris. Chris, such and such and such. She talk my head off about it. This was in the 90s, right? I'm 42. I was a little kid in the 90s. And she would talk my head off about it, Melanie. But she never really did anything. She was being a black woman in America and everything that goes with that. She didn't have a single black woman, by the way, in America. And lo and behold, her products would come out. I mean, time. If it happened one time, it happened 8 times, 9 times, 10 times. She would have these wonderful ideas. She would tell me all about them. Months or a year later, we would see it. We would see it, and she would
Mm.
tell me, when you get to wherever you're going, God drops in your heart an idea. Stand on it. Put your name on it. Put your name on it, and be who you are in this world. I owe so much to that lady. I could talk about it for days, man. But I appreciate the legacy she helped me set up.
Wow, that is so powerful. That is so powerful because I know a lot of us, we don't we have ideas
Yeah,
and we sit on it and we
yeah.
sit on it and we sit in it and we think about it and we talk about it a little bit. But like, where's the action? Where's the execution? Where's the follow through? Because all of that is great and wonderful, but like now it's time to make it happen. And
You know what?
so
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Don't let me. Don't let me.
Go
Okay, okay,
ahead.
okay, okay. One of the things that I didn't appreciate about the Black woman experience that I learned the hard way through my mom, through my mama. I have younger relatives that my mom took in. First of all, my mom been taking in relatives almost my whole life. We done had cousins and siblings that moved back in, and children and grandchildren and friends of the friends. And so she just had one of those kind of homes, right? So I'm not going to name any particular names, but she was struggling with the particular young one that she had brought back into the home, right? And I remember, because I'm my mom's little support soldier, right? So she'll call me, and she
Mhm.
always did when I was younger, talk my head off about whatever it is. She calls it church news and announcements, Melody, as well. So she called me. She was like, "You ready for these church news announcements?" And I just put the phone down because she about to go. That's about to be 25 minutes, right? So and I listen and I engage and go back. Well, this particular topic of conversation, she had hit me up multiple times. I mean, over a span of months. One day I got frustrated, and I was like, "You gotta do the thing that puts your proverbial foot down. Like, you gotta stand on business," as they say now, right? We didn't say that really too much back then, but you gotta be able to do it. And she like, "Okay, well, no, I hear you, son. Okay, okay, okay." She called me back a little bit later, same thing, right? We repeat, we repeat. And one day, after I became a father, I realized that I was asking my mom not to be a Black mother, not to be a woman, not to cover all the bases, not to make a way when ain't no way, not to take the bruised peaches and make peach cobbler. I'm telling her, throw that stuff out, stand on business, but that's not who the Black woman is, right? The Black woman takes a house that may not be much and make it a home. Somehow it's warm in there. Even when it ain't warm, it feels warm, right? That's a Black woman's touch. And I was so embarrassed when that realization, Melanie, hit me like a ton of bricks, that I was disempowering her from the essence of her being, right? The
Mhm.
essence of how she moves in this world. Be something that you're not, Mom. Fake the funk. Stand on business. That's what I would do. That's not fair, right? Because there's so much of what we have. I could be wrong. I guarantee you soul food was the concoction of all them Black women back then. That food that we come to know and love, I bet you was them. It might have been some dudes, maybe. I can cook a little bit. Some guys can cook a little bit. I really can grill. But the warmth that comes with eating soul food, the fact that it is even recognized that they took regular stuff. Did you know something that I didn't know? I know I'm all over the place, but this is the legacy that I've learned from my mom about being a Black woman. Not me, but out of respect, right? I didn't know that wings was throwaway food. So
Mm.
wings was a little piece of a little bird that didn't have a lot to it, and you got rid of it. So the way we treat the little skinny piece of the wing, the whole wing was that back in the back of the day. And they took that, and they took them peaches with them bruises, and they took this right here, and they flavored it, and they cooked them beans. Who'd ever thought you could cook beans? Beans, little rocks, Melody. Beans, little pebbles. Who'd ever been like, I bet you if I boil them, I bet you if we just set it right there. And y'all going outside. We're gonna come back later. Like who it's the gift of a black woman, right? And
Yeah,
so
we're resourceful.
it's amazing. And just on like that right there goes across business lines, family
Hmm.
lines, right? It's because it's an internal skill set. Shout
Yeah.
out to the moms of the world.
Yes, I love it. So how does that, how does the legacy of your mom and some of the experiences you had with her
Yeah.
now help you now with your brand consistency?
Yeah. So I heard a phrase, same conversation when I told you that I realized that piece about privilege yesterday I was having.
Mhm,
It was a phrase. I call it corny. I call it corny. Little corny stuff like that, Melanie. I call it notable quotables. Right.
mhm,
So it was a notable quotable that popped up that almost more than any other group. This made me a little sad, right? I don't want to get all touchy on your little or your show, Melanie. I ain't come here to be all touchy feels. But this made me a little sad to even realize because the truth resonated, right? And somebody said black women sometimes are uniquely gifted at helping people hurt them. And we
mm,
were connecting it to business, to family, to relationships, to life in general. It- I don't know if I'm gonna get to the business piece because it ties in because it's a universal trait that shows up I believe in the black woman, right? So when I was in college, I was pre-med for a little bit. I saw one too many video surgeries, not even real life video surgeries. I was like, man, I ain't doing this, right? I saw an aneurysm and a C-section surgery, and I went from neuroscience pre-med to psychology, theory, mind. Got up out of that. But Melanie, when I was in undergrad, I learned a very sad statistic that the number of women who are black and also are under, I forgot the proper term, but not given the proper dosage for pain medicine, for
mm,
care, because the the black woman more than any other group. I didn't make the study. I'm looking at the stats back during my undergraduate time. It seems as though the narrative is she got it. She's okay. And then when I sit back and I'm looking at these just stats and data lines, and I was reflecting back on statements I've heard my whole life. No, y'all go ahead. I'm fine. I'll
mhm,
be all right. It's the same. It shows up everywhere. So by the time we get into the corporate space, by the time we get into the entrepreneurial space, by the time we get into the business space, it takes a very particular type, so it seems, of black woman to not say, you know what, I'm not gonna take from my sister, and I'm not gonna take from y'all, because I believe we've also as a society conditioned them that you will be all right. You don't need much. You are so good with making a little bit out of nothing. So we gonna go ahead. You know I'm gonna get you back. Mama, can I get it? Can I? Thank you, mom. That's in sitcoms, that's in TV shows. So by the time she grows up from being my daughter to a woman empowered in this world, if we're not careful, for the little bit of dudes that may follow you and enjoy our conversation as well, gentlemen, if you are in the life of a younger black woman who is eventually going to go up and be an older black woman, whether she's 7 or 17, she could be a niece, a granddaughter, whatever. We have to also teach the power of the voice. And that's why when that woman, my colleague, told me, say my name, play cuz. And she laughed. She was like, you right, man, look. Say my name, right? Like it
love that.
I appreciated it. I didn't like it, if I can be honest. I didn't like
Mhm,
it at first, Melanie. But once I sat back and got out of my little feelings and listened to what she was saying to me, she was saying what I'm trying to say right now. If we really, let me speak about myself. If I believe my work is about empowering, especially the strongest anchor in our society, the black woman. If I believe that my own work is about that, then a major part of that is sharing, instilling, and being humble about the power of her own voice, her own preference, her own choices as it relates to business, not just supporting another dream, not just being the good woman that's behind the vision, that's behind the movement, behind the man, behind the, but also the face, also the decider. You know, I really, and I wasn't always here. If I can be honest, if you'd have known that, y'all, she'd have kicked Melanie, would have been like, Rodney, you're not, because I wasn't always there, right? I was raised in old fashioned, dogmatic, stuck mindset about stuff.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
appreciate the experiences that I've had over life that have allowed me to be like, listen to yourself. There's a woman on social media. She goes by Clara Bell. It's a black woman. And she takes things that are true for males and particularly white males, and she flips it and she puts the black woman in that spot and rewrites the same scenario.
Mm.
The biases that come out, the obstacles that black women are faced
Right.
with are so loud when it's to a man or a white man. It's like that don't make no sense. Oh, it don't. Oh, it don't make no sense. That's not fair. It's powerful work. It's really honestly her plus those experiences is why I reached out to you. I wanted to be
Mm.
a part of your movement, Melanie. I wanted to be a part of how we empower and give permission for black women to speak their truth, to build their legacy, stand on their brand, and know what that looks like.
Yes. Love
Yes.
that. And that right there is the epitome of my message, right? Show up, build your visibility, build your authority, build your thought leadership without sacrificing authenticity. That's the whole
Yes.
basis of my work, right? Because it's hard for us to just show up as we are and be embraced and appreciated and not, looked down upon or judged or all these other things. And it's like we have to teach the world how to treat us now.
Yes.
There has been so much of our narrative, of our story being told on our behalf. It's time to tell our own stories. And
Yes.
like you said, build our own legacies. And that's really what I'm trying to do. I just want us to show up in the essence of who we are comfortably and
Mm,
confidently
mm.
wherever we may go. And I put it under the lens of personal branding, but it's so much bigger than that.
It is.
It is
It
so
is.
much bigger than that, right? And
But
so talk to me a little bit about
mhm.
the power of belief as it relates to what we've been talking about and
Yeah, yeah,
your mom and the brand consistency. Like
yeah.
how important is that belief part?
So, so can I give a parallel before I'm gonna give an analogy a little bit to explain this?
Yeah.
I believe. So, if we, if there's a bed, right? There's a queen size, full size, whatever. They got a bunch of stuff on it, hair grease, you know, remote control, whatever it is, right? Hairbrush, whatever it is. It's their phone. It's things on the bed, right? Well, if I go and I'm going to put myself humbly, if I can even try to put myself in the space of being the black woman in this moment, right? If I go and I sit on the bed, those things are going to move and adjust based on the being that I am, the who that I am, right? So the hair grease jar is going to roll a little bit to, depending on who I am, right? Roll a little bit towards me. I'm going to make that little indent. My impression is going to be felt. What we inadvertently teach black women to do, probably everybody, but it's loud to me over the past several years about the voicelessness that goes particularly with the black woman who just got it, you can make it work, right? So we teach them either be fine with that setup, whatever that stuff is, whatever you need. If it's too close, too far, hey, you kind of make it work. Or we teach them, well, make it come to you. And that make it forceful is not, that's what I was trying to tell my mom to do, right? And
Hmm.
so what I learned using the parallel, I learned if I get up and I run and I jump and flop on the bed, boom, all that stuff adjusts. I didn't tell it. It adjusts based on my movement. If I came in and I slid and scooted in and sat on the edge, that stuff is going to respond accordingly. So a major part about getting the response from the world, from the business, from the environment is about really believing the me that I am. Really, really saying, this is how I want to show up. This is whether they do, whether they don't. Don't respond if you don't say my name. And say my name is my business, my product, my right. Like I am going to be who I am. But there's something called the straight-faced test. I don't know if me and you touched on this. So the straight-faced test is when I look in the mirror. When I look in the mirror, let's say it's the price for my service, my company, my business, my product, right? It's a price that I want to put on there. I want people to pay me this price. If I look in the mirror by myself, Melanie, and I say that price, and I start to wince or avert to look the other way, or kind of like, it's $750, but all that right there, all of that tells whoever is looking at me, don't go with that price. She don't think it's worth that much. So if I look in the mirror, Melanie, and I can't look at the me that God gave me without being uncomfortable about my price, about my brand, my service delivery, then it's not real for me yet. How do I expect somebody to honor that? So the straight face test is when I look in that mirror and I say it's $750. And depending on how many zeros behind that is depending on who you are listening. 7.7, whatever it is, 7,000.
7, comma.
When I look in that mirror and I say it and it feels good, that's when I know it's my price. But that's homework. That's self-work. Because can I tell you something else? This is true. And this is kind of true for people. Especially, I got 2 daughters, right? I got 2 daughters. And they bring their little friends around, right? And I remember, actually, my daughter didn't bring this person around. My son did. So my wife got 5 kids, Melanie. They got a lot of kids, man. I don't know where they keep coming from over and over again. It's ridiculous. Can we do another show about that? Don't get me in trouble. But so my son, this was years ago. He was maybe about 6 years old. At school event, watching a movie. They were selling boxes of pizza. Brought the pizza over, and the little girl was so ashamed to ask for a slice of pizza. My son was like, "Ask him." And she said, "Can I have a slice of pizza?" Right? Broke my little heart. I gave her a couple slices. Right? Piled a little plate up. But what happens is this in the world. Let's say I want to give the pizza or the price that you ask for, but you don't believe you should have it. Whether it's subconsciously or whether you really think, like, I can't be charging people. I don't need, but I just need enough to pay my bills. And so what happens for years? We get enough to pay our little bills. Right? And so really, for those of us that are in the work, to me, empowerment, that first part of that word empowered, the prefix of that M is kind of an internal. It's a goodness gracious. It's a conjugation of the IN. It's an internal thing. It's empowerment, right? So the strength of it is within. Empowerment doesn't exist outside. It's things that we can do to put up supports. We can open gates. But if I don't believe that I'm pretty, you could tell me all day long. If I don't believe my prices, if I don't believe if I go over there and charge them that they're going to do it. Meanwhile, you got people selling Payless. Do you ever heard about that? They were selling them Payless shoes. They call it
Payless. Yes, I saw that.
You got people doing it everywhere, taking your idea for your product, your stuff, and saying it is worth something. So what I want to do is be a part of giving permission to be, right? A major part of that belief is rest in. The B part is I know I'm getting all corny with the words, right? But this is part of what I do as a communications professional. I taught college communication for about 10 years. I had them people breaking down words. I failed everybody. Melanie. Everybody
Oh
failed.
my God. What
Everybody,
the hell?
everybody failed. But we broke the words down because I believe in etymology. I believe in where the word come from. Why we say it like that.
Right,
What
right, right.
that phrase mean. Why we say stuff like read between the lines. What does that mean? Where it come from? Because I believe that gives insight on what we're trying to say. And so the part of that belief, that be is about existence, being. You got to rest in that belief. You got to rest in that belief. You can't struggle in the belief. You can't fight in the belief. You still fight it.
This is so in alignment with the name. Look at the name of my podcast and my program and my course. Everything is empowered presence. It's just the essence. Everything you said is just summed up so nicely in terms of what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? And so I love that. I love that we're so in sync. It's crazy.
I saw that. So when I saw your profile, it's a lot of folks up there that got little shows and opportunities and stuff. And I just be skipping and scrolling. And I don't always look, but every now and then I check it out, right? And I saw that. I saw your profile, saw what you was trying to do. Something about it. I made a reference. Something about your profile resonated. I made a reference just a second ago about reading between the lines. Let me bring that full circle, right? Because this is what happened with you and I. You don't know this, but let me tell you what had happened. Can I tell you what happened?
What happened?
So reading between the lines is a music reference, right? So you know when you write music, the little black circles and all that kind of stuff on lines, those are notes. We know that. Well, in between the lines are spaces. Those spaces are also a note. And so sometimes you can write the circle on the line and you can skip 2-3 lines or something like that and draw all of these little funky looking music shapes. But even though it's skipping and going over, it's still music in between those spaces. And so when you're reading the music, you don't just read the dots and the circles that we see. You also have to read between the line and feel the music to really bring out the essence of that music. Your profile didn't say, hey, Rodney, we go way back. You don't even know it. But it sure enough did. It sure enough did. And it had music in it. It had a vitality to it that was more than just the print on the screen. It was a liveliness about your brand, Melanie, what you're trying to do. And I really do believe that you're going to attract a lot of folks. I think that you're attracting the right people. I believe that you are being positioned. Man, I'm going to tell you something. It takes one individual to say, yeah, that, let me make a phone call. And that person is the linchpin to a whole new existence, a whole new level. I want to get behind that. I want to be a part of that. And that's why I reached out.
I love it. I appreciate that so much. And I want to say something because you keep saying what I'm trying to do, but I'm doing it.
Doing it.
So let's clear that up as well, please.
I rock with that. I rock with
that.
Permanent. What you're doing.
Yes, what I'm doing.
Yes.
And you're correct. You are my 34th or 35th episode. And I have guests lined up into August.
Come on.
So it's crazy because I didn't realize how much people was going to be attracted to this, you know what I mean? But they're coming out of woodworks, finding me from wherever, telling me, oh my gosh, inboxing me, I see your show, da da da. So I enjoy this, and I think this is such meaningful work. You know what I mean? That I get such a sense of fulfillment because it's so much deeper. This is deep stuff, and I always say you got to dig deep. Surface won't suffice, right? And I appreciate the people recognize how deep I'm really trying to go with this stuff. And that, yeah, it's about branding. Yeah, you put yourself out there. Yeah, get some money. But like at the end of it all, this is an identity, self-identity thing.
Yes. And you are giving us permission. Can I say I feel empowered by what you do? I know I'm not a Black woman, but it's something about how you move. It's something about even your presence, your professionalism. Even the setup right here, this format is one of the cleanest. Even your opening, I didn't know your opening was going to be what it was. So you just showed me.
No one does. They be like, "Oh, okay."
it's professional. It's professional. And we get to see ourselves through how you see us, Melanie. And you
Yes.
get to remind us who we are. And in my small, if I can get just a small little piece of that, I must say I feel reminded. Like I feel like your work says you are important. Remember that movie? What's that? What that movie with the little girl? She was sitting on
She had to look in the mirror and say, "You are important. I am important. You are
yeah,
enough."
yeah, yeah. She was sitting on the lady's lap though. What's that lady name?
Oh, was it
Murder. Viola Davis. She was sitting on the act. Was Viola?
what was the movie? I know what you're talking about.
She was sitting on. There's a little girl. She was sitting on the lap, and
Mhm.
she was saying, "You're important, and you're
Mhm.
special," and the girl had to repeat it. Your platform is like that. Is like that. Viola Davis reflecting to us. Say it. Look at this episode. Say it. Let me get this funny looking boy on here. He gonna say something. I'm gonna let him talk to me. Like, look at yourself. You're reflecting back to us, and
Mhm.
that's so powerful. It's so powerful to give our little baby girls doll babies that look like them. It's so
Mhm.
important for them to look at shows and TV. I had the opportunity to go to Johannesburg, South Africa.
Nice.
Blew my mind. I was taught that when you go to Africa, you're gonna see a bunch of Say the Kids. You're gonna
Mm.
see food packages falling out the air.
Marketing.
Right? When we
Propaganda.
landed at the airport and they picked me up and took me to one of the largest hotel casinos in the region, and they was just in there in t-shirts. Now I ain't real big on casino. I probably would have lost all my money, but I just was happy to be in a place. Everybody was black. Everybody was black. And they were in there. And then you look at the commercials and you go through the malls, in the highways that are snaking downtown, in the billboards, in the skyscrapers. In the mall, this particular mall had a 10-foot bronze. I don't know what metal it was, Melanie. It was a really, really big statue of Nelson Mandela. It was so amazing how important it is. They have that
Mhm.
phrase that representation counts. What you provide with your platform is representation. And we get to see us how Melanie sees us. And
Yes.
we get to look back and it's a mirror. It's a mirror. One of the things that I think you also provide, which mirrors provide, is sometimes that uncomfortable look at
Mhm.
like this is how this is what it is. And it's in love, right? Like it's not coming from a bad place. Mirrors don't hate us. A mirror
Right.
is a mirror is a mirror. But if I got something crazy going on,
Right.
that mirror gonna be like, guess well, we can fix it. And I got the other stuff you need right here on the sink. But this is what we look like. I don't even I sometimes because the impact I believe of the work goes, like you said, so far beyond branding. This is what I also mean about the business of it.
Mhm.
When we put a service or product out in the market, first of all, the idea to have it, to do it, to provide it, I believe it's something called resonance. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but it basically means if I'm every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The desire for me to sell a plate of food, chicken dinner, means that there's somebody that has the desire to buy a plate of food or chicken dinner. Every action is a universal principle, which means it
Mhm.
happens everywhere for everything, right? So the desire that I have to set up a shop, to have a truck, to go over here, whatever it is, means that there are people that are literally waiting. Man, if they just had something right here, knowing that helps us move differently.
I love it.
As Black women who are underrepresented in the marketplace, right? But that's part of the American society that we live in that have conditions that are broad in it. But that's why you
Mhm.
do the work that you do, etc.
Right.
If we can get those, I feel like I got something on my face. I'm all right. I ain't
You
got no,
good?
I ain't got no chicken
Yeah.
dinner falling out my. If we can get more and more Black women, because although they are underrepresented in the marketplace as providers, not providers as I don't
Consumers.
no. They're overrepresented as consumers. I
Oh,
forgot
okay.
the term of the like creator, but it's not creator these days means like social media stuff. And I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
I mean
Sup-
product delivery.
suppliers.
Suppliers. Black women are underrepresented in the marketplace as suppliers. Is a huge niche for them. But they are one of the largest spending blocks in America. That's crazy.
You know what's interesting about what you're saying? Thinking about my services and my business, I would try to do research around SEO, right? Search
Yeah.
engine. Google. You go to Google. I want to start showing up as
Mm-hmm.
personal branding for women of color or Black women.
Okay.
That search term is not heavily used, or it doesn't come up in all the reports and the research. The terms don't. Black women is personal branding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Black women, women of color, but not together. And that's interesting that you brought that up because I see it. I can see it in what I do now,
It's the
where
opportunity.
it's not being represented like this is a thing.
Yes.
And so now I'm like, how do I now show up in the search results for a Black woman?
Can I
You
ask
see
you a
what I'm trying to say? Because usually you type in like short hair,
question? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's gonna be white women.
Right.
You
Right.
have
Right.
to put short hair Black women to get the
Yes.
results.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to be that for women of color, Black women, when it comes to personal branding.
Branding.
And I
It's
think I'm a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm about to be the first
you say you're a little bit ahead of yourself.
in terms of just when you search the term,
Yeah.
there's not a lot that
Yeah.
shows
Yeah.
up that matches for real. It's not a lot. It's not like, you know, if you search Black women or personal branding, that combination is not necessarily there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because we're not searching the term for ourselves or Google just not, you know what I mean,
It's probably a
showing
mixture of
it.
all of the things,
Yeah.
and it sounds like it's time. It sounds like it's time for
Yeah.
that to stand up, right? Because remember that little thing I just said. The fact that you have, as Melanie Denny, the idea and desire to establish it means that there's people that have the desire. They can't act on it because their action is an equal and opposite reaction to an action that comes before. So it takes the Melanie Denny's of the world to act so that the react, right?
Mhm.
It's the act, so then the react. But the desire is starting to be out there. It's a
Right.
taste for it. I love that so much because once I learned that one of the largest, not just with the economy and being a supplier versus a consumer, but then also the voting block. So when
Mm.
they say we got to get the Black vote, do you know what they're really saying? Black women.
Mm.
That's really what the largest voting block of the Black voting voice are Black women between the ages of 35 and 55. So everybody know that that's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
She's gonna buy her stuff. She's gonna show out. She's gonna pack out the shows. She's gonna pack out the concerts. She's gonna pack out the churches. She's gonna pack out the schools.
Yep.
But if we keep her busy taking care of everything else but herself, right?
Hmm.
She then won't feel empowered to show up in the work in the marketplace. And we need it. And my question I was going to ask you, one of my things that my mom struggled with,
Hmm.
I didn't know how to help her for years. And I'm still open for what this could look like. She felt like I can't do the things that I want to do because if I don't take care of this, it's going to fall apart. And
She was in survival mode.
she was in survival mode. How do we? And I wanted her something as simple as eating. I know this sounds so crazy, Melanie, but sometimes my mom would cook for us, for me and my little sisters, and sometimes the other people that we would have. and it would be enough for everybody. But she wouldn't eat because she said it's not enough for everybody. And if y'all want some more, y'all need to get some more. She would go to bed hungry. And so my little kid mind back then didn't comprehend mom just eat. But her drive to take care of everybody but herself was so strong it overrode the desire, the need to eat. And I don't know how to really speak to that because to me it feels like the internal truth of I gotta care for my community, my family. If I don't, nobody else will. We put that on them so much because respectfully, bruh's popping in and out of jail, bruh's popping in and out the house, bruh's popping in and out the community, bruh's popping in and out. Just really, Papa is the Rolling Stone. Who at the house taking care of stuff, right? And so because we've agreed that that's her role to stay put while he get it together and struggle out there in the world, she has in turn, equal and opposite, internalized it. This is my role. I must do this. So I
Mm.
respect it, but I don't know how to help alleviate that when a person's internal truth is I gotta do this and I don't care what it looks like. How do I
Mhm.
how do I speak to that? Because I feel like that's part of my work, Melanie.
Well, I think it's, each of us have to do the work for ourselves. And like you said, if someone's telling you something and you don't believe it, it's never going to change. So, that's funny, that story you shared, because I shared that story with my therapist a few years ago. And she was like, "You need to eat first." And it was a complete shift in just I think it's they have to do the work. You can preach and show and tell and do all these things, but until they recognize and something clicks in them that, you know what, if I'm not okay, if I can't eat tonight, I'm not gonna have energy to cook tomorrow. They have to recognize it. And that takes inner work to recognize that. And I tell you what, I'm 41
Yeah.
and I'm just now realizing, been married 7 years, just now realizing everything hinges on how I feel physically, emotionally, mentally, all of it. Everything hinges on that. Everything. And so I'm learning, like, I have to put myself first. That is the new survival mode,
Oh man.
right? Because if
Mm.
I don't, everything gonna fall apart anyway. So while you up there talking about you eat, you get seconds, and I'm starving. Oh well, ain't no more for me. That's not serving the bigger picture. That's not serving the household. Definitely not
Mm.
serving me. It's not serving y'all because tomorrow I'm be tired. Am I
That's
gonna
right.
be able to cook tomorrow because I'm
Mm.
malnourished?
Mm.
You see what I'm
Mm.
saying? So it has to come from within, and awareness has to be there, and it has to come from a place that she's ready to receive that message. Right.
Yeah.
So in therapy, I was ready to receive it because I was in therapy trying to fix myself. Right. But if you just hanging out and you talking to your mom or whoever, your wife, whatever, they may not be in a space to receive it. They're like, whatever, you gonna get the plate or not.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like hard. It's a hard thing for you to say, how can I help? It's just recognize it, of course, telling them here and there, maybe nudging them into therapy or
Yeah.
something, but like they're going to have to recognize that on their own. And
Can
I
I
didn't recognize it till literally like this year.
I
I
love that so much. You just gave me a whole thing, and I was scared to ask you this because I was like, I'm about to ask her to solve world peace or something, right? Like something crazy. But you gave me a nugget, right? You gave me a nugget. You said you have to eat first.
you have to.
That's so simple. One of my favorite quotes is Einstein. Einstein says, if you can't explain it simply, you don't really get it yourself.
Mm,
And you just took that whole dynamic of the cook and eat, which is like symbolic, right? Of how the black woman, I believe, shows up in the world, in the
right.
space, with family, with people, with jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Have to eat first, or everything else. And kind of like what you said also, but I'm gonna put it in my own little words. Do you want to see everything fall apart tomorrow? You don't want them to. Okay, well, you realize something as simple as you just putting your little stuff right here first helps everything not fall apart tomorrow. It protects and supports them. I think speaking to that is speaking to the essence of her. This whole idea of like the man yours first up front, that's not who she is. Rodney C, talking to your mama, you're not speaking, you're not going to get the best out of her saying, put your foot. It's not who she is.
Right.
But when you remind her that she can care more, better, more
Right.
completely tomorrow for her people by doing this, eating your plate first, you just helped me help a lot of folks. Melanie didn't. I'm about to run and go tell on Melanie. You know what you need to do? You need to, oh man. That's spot on.
Ooh, I'm glad. I'm glad I was able to shine some light on that for you. But yeah, it's a real thing. And like I said, I'm just not recognizing this. Just imagine how many people could be way better off if they recognize these type of things earlier in life.
Yes.
How more further along they could be, how much more happier, fulfilled they could be. They recognize these things that I'm just not learning about myself and about life.
Doing the work.
So here we are trying to spread the word. So
time though now, right? And everybody ain't gonna get it. Something else that this was very helpful for me. Maybe this is good in part for you too, Melanie. One of the things that I struggled with was them not getting it all when I was getting. So the stuff that I share out in the world, it's alive to me. I'm like, yeah, don't you see this? It's right here. But what you just said, which is so true, is everybody may not be ready.
yeah.
And so my part one may be just to add a little bit like a Jenga block, right? Just add a right there. Just that one little piece right there. And then just trust that the work is going to get like just back up. You don't got to sit there and watch the plant, Rodney, grow out the dirt.
Exactly.
Back your butt up, right? Let things work. You're doing
you blocking the sun hovering over the plant. Let it do what it's supposed to do. Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rodney, for sharing and coming and spending the time with us today. And all the things you do to uplift Black women and honor your mom and the women in your family. I really, really, really appreciate that. And so thank you from the bottom of my heart. This was a great conversation. Like I said, I was hesitant. Like, what you mean, oh man? What you want? What you need? What's up? But you definitely shine some light. You gave us some insight. You gave us your perspective. And I loved how much you honor and respect us. So thank you for that.
I'm a wonderful being.
If you want to get in touch with Rodney, he does have a website. Definitely check it out. RodneyCBurris.com. You can go visit, see what he's about, see what he has to offer, get into his space, get into his work, and connect with him. Okay. If you enjoyed the podcast today, please make sure you support. All you have to do is subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review, share this out, right? That's all you need to do to support. That's all I'm asking you to do. If you enjoyed this conversation and conversations in the past and conversations coming up in the future, show some support and just hit a button. That's really what it boils down to. So I would appreciate that. And remember, guys, empowered is just the authority to do something. Presence is the state of fact of being. So just be who you are and be empowered in that and use your power to impact the world. Until next time, happy self-marketing.